Good morning. How is everybody doing this morning? I know I had dinner with some friends here, and we had a couple of extra rounds of drinks at the restaurant. So I hope everybody had some good fun last night at the Microsoft event. I hope that some of you were able to join us at the UMT event. I'm going to be up here for really just a couple of minutes to introduce our speaker, Rob Morrison from ConocoPhillips. My name is Oscar Dulucio, and I am a partner with UMT. You might have heard of UMT as one of the partners in this conference, obviously. And I have had the privilege of working with Rob in the journey that he's going to be sharing with us today. Before we start the conversation, I know that I'll do a brief introduction of Rob, and I know that he's going to be sharing a lot during the presentation. I wanted to get a sense of why you are in the room, so to allow Rob to learn a little bit about the audience and myself as well. So a couple of questions. Let me ask you, how many of you are here because this is on the oil and gas industry, and you are in oil and gas or interested in oil and gas? Okay, so a good 60 or 70%. How many of you, when looking at the title, the topic of application portfolio management caught your attention particularly, application portfolio management? So good 50% as well. And then, of course, if I ask project portfolio management, well, we are all in this conference because of project portfolio management as well. So I'm not going to ask you to thank you for raising your hand. All right, very good. And then I'll ask a last question. How many of you are today using Project Server in your organizations? Everybody's using Project Server in one extent or the other. Okay. Very good. And then a last question. How many of you find it annoying when you're asked to raise your hand continuously at the beginning of a presentation? Yeah. Okay, I'll stop it then. All right, very good. So I want to be very brief so that we let Rob take us through the presentation. I'll take any questions as well during the presentation if needed. But I'll do a brief introduction of UMT and then, more importantly, an introduction of Rob. This is the agenda that we're planning to focus today. Again, Rob will be covering this. There's going to be a little introduction on the oil and gas industry. For some of you that are not as familiar, ConocoPhillips focused on exploration and production is in the oil and gas industry. And then really three topics, the second, third, and fourth bullet, which are going to cover the content. A little bit what are the key principles for the application development at ConocoPhillips, that's the second bullet. And then two topics, third and fourth. One, managing the application portfolio, and two, managing the project and the work portfolio. So we've split or separated or structured the conversation a little bit in application portfolio and work portfolio. A brief introduction of UMT. We do two things at UMT. We do consulting for implementations of project and portfolio management on the Microsoft platform. We are very proud and we feel that we are very much on the process and organizational redesign and business consulting, not just the tools. You might be familiar with the fact that Microsoft bought the UMT portfolio management tool in the past. So we do know the tools. We even built some of what Project Server is today. But when we talk about our consulting, we're very proud of trying to always do it from a process, organizational, and business-focused standpoint. And the second thing that we do at UMT is we build some great tools. And our software division is called UMT 360. Again, an example of that is maybe the product that Microsoft bought from UMT in the past. And you'll see people from consulting and from UMT 360, our software division. And the way to spot them is, for example, I am with the consulting team, so I try to look serious. I put on a jacket and a white shirt. And Nicole, for example, in the back, she's with our UMT 360 team, and they are more comfortable, more dynamic, and they're wearing T-shirts. So two slides. One is on the consulting excellence. Very brief. I'm just going to point out that we have 6 clients speaking at the project conference. One of them is ConocoPhillips, but you see some of the other names. Nielsen, who spoke yesterday, Marquette University, Morgan Stanley, Con Edison. Great speaker at Con Edison. If you don't mind encouraging one presentation from my side, I would definitely encourage that one. ACCO, another great speaker as well. So we feel that our clients speak for our consulting reputation quite well, and maybe the fact that we have 6 clients presenting is a good example of that. Second point, solution innovation. It's a second slide, and we're just going to, instead of me saying it a lot, make reference to how Gartner has consistently recognized UMT as a leader in the space, particularly with our solution UMT 360, where we're a visionary, a cool vendor, makes us feel cool about being cool. So come by our booth and learn about UMT 360. It's part of what Rob is going to be talking about today, since they do use UMT 360 at ConocoPhillips and at many of our other clients, be it, for example, Shell, Halliburton, and so on and so forth. So I won't continue too much there. All right, so let me jump into the introduction for Rob. And I wrote it here in my phone. Rob Morrison is a supervisor at ConocoPhillips, where he has held a variety of roles in project management, program management, and organizational management. He has been with ConocoPhillips for 16 years, and he has facilitated multi-million-dollar solution deployments for tools that are used globally. Rob is based in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, some of the best barbecue that I've tried, right there in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. And there, he not only manages applications portfolio for ConocoPhillips, he also manages what I have called here a family portfolio, which includes a beautiful wife, 3 daughters, 2 dogs, 2 cats, 1 rabbit, and 1 donkey. That is what Rob has to take care of when he goes back home after taking care of the portfolio at ConocoPhillips. As a disclaimer, UMT 360 is used for many things. It's not really for donkey portfolio management. It's something we don't do yet. Rob is also a U.S. Army veteran, and we thank him for his service. With that, please join me in welcoming Rob Morrison.
Thank you, guys. Even though Microsoft said we really shouldn't do this, kind of a real personal setting. If you have questions as we go, we don't need to wait till the end. Just raise your hand, and we'll try to keep the flow going with what questions you have, right? Sometimes it's hard to hold that to the end and remember what it was. He's right. We do have a full-size donkey, 900 pounds. He kills coyotes. I don't know if you guys knew donkeys did that. We have some chickens, and they protect chickens from that. I love fresh eggs, so that's what donkeys lot in life. How's everybody? Happy hour is not very happy this morning, is it? Anybody else? Whew, man, that was hurting. All right, so ConocoPhillips, we focus in E&P now. So when you think about the petroleum industry, everybody thinks about a gas station. I mean, that's all we think about, gas stations. But oil goes into so many different things, cosmetics, transportation. You know, if you're my age, probably you remember there used to be truck driving school, and their motto was, if you got it, a truck brought it. And so you try to think about something you have that a truck didn't bring. So that's the petroleum industry. And eyeglasses. Anybody know what an eyeglasses would be from petroleum? Anybody think of it? Nobody? Plastic? Plastic, yeah. And then think of everything that has plastic in it. So it's not just buying a Prius to kind of change the global footprint. There's all these other places that the oil has went into now. So has anybody heard about the gas supply chain? I know all you guys that raised your hands from the petroleum industry have. So ConocoPhillips and Phillips 66, we were one integrated oil company two and a half years ago, and we transitioned into pure play companies. So ConocoPhillips is going to focus on just exploration and production. Phillips 66, just refining, transportation. So we split 2.5 years ago, and if you think about the stream, if you think about a real stream, the water comes up out of the ground somewhere, and that's the mouth of the stream, so that's the top. That's where we explore, we find it, then we produce it, and then we transition it to the midstream, so think it's floating down the stream, where they do some preliminary processing, more transporting, and then in the downstream space, it's where the refining occurs, and marketing and selling. Shameless plug for ConocoPhillips, working every day, exploration company of choice for all stockholders. Please buy stock. Okay. So here's kind of an overview of us. We're headquartered in Houston, Texas. As Oscar pointed out, I live in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, which is kind of the IT hub for ConocoPhillips, a little town, about 40,000 people. 17,000 employees worldwide. Remember, we just transitioned, so we were quite a bit larger. Now, as we transitioned into the two, we kind of went down. $65 billion in revenue, $9 billion in profit, greater profit margin ExxonMobil, but half the profit margin of Walmart. So does anybody think Walmart will be testifying in front of Congress about the profits? No, just bad oil people. A little map there, kind of where we're at in the world. So application development at ConocoPhillips. So when we did the transition, there was a lot of movement, right? So just because, say, the SharePoint team took 10 people to support the integrated company, when we split, it's not just 5 and 5 now, right? It ended up being about 7 and 7 to do that. So we had a lot of new folks, which came a lot of new ideas. They tried to move some of us around to try to help kind of change the image and the culture of IT specifically. So I went into a group that was called WAS, Web Application Services. We developed custom web apps for anywhere in the globe that wanted them. Easily the most disliked group in all of ConocoPhillips. Turn in your request one of 27 ways. There wasn't really a process, and maybe you got something back 3 or 4 months later. So we had a lot of issues. We had issues with capacity, with work planning, what our resources were doing. We had a customer responsiveness issue, and then we had an application lifecycle management issue. That's where we had a list of over 500 apps that we actually didn't have a list, over 500 applications that this group of 120 people supported. And they weren't in a single list. It took them 3 days to actually make a spreadsheet just with the names of all the apps in them and who the customer was they supported. So we had 3 pretty good challenges. In here in the blue is what we knew, and the red's what we needed to figure out. So we went to Microsoft, because with the new folks in, they said, Microsoft Project Server could probably help you with the portfolio management and the resource management. And so they said, we have a rep that comes every couple of weeks and spends a few days with us, and he set up a demo for Microsoft Project Server. So we're doing that, and then we start looking for an application lifecycle management tool. We're meeting with different vendors and hearing different presentations. And it wasn't going so well because we had cost issues, as several of the other folks here. And what we were getting back were great-looking solutions. They were just way out of our price range. So after the demo with Microsoft, then our rep was back, and we said, hey, it's great. We want to go down this space. And we don't think you guys have anything in the application lifecycle management. Can you recommend some people? And they said, we have some people you got to meet. Because what they specifically brought to the table for us was an application lifecycle management piece that was in one tool, deployment of Project Server, with Hans helping us scale Project Server to where, what do you want this to be in a year? What's it going to be in 3 years? What's it going to be in 5 years? Because these are little checkboxes in the server now, but later there's no going back. So you got to get it right kind of when you start it, unless you want to redo it. So that expertise really helped us a lot. So simplify and standardize the process. Kind of the mantra that we started with was challenge everything. Challenge every process you do. Try to figure out why you do it. We had developers that were doing as many as 9 status reports a week. So 75 developers, average 6-7 status reports a week. That's a lot of time that they're not developing, right? That's a lot of lost opportunities. And we wanted a direct interaction with our customers. We wanted a consolidated code repository, TFS, and we wanted to link TFS to Project Server also. All right, and then we are the same group. We have the testing capabilities. We also have Primavera in that group and some other functionality. So we wanted to empower our folks to say, I don't know what this is. I don't know why I do this step in it. And then it was a great developmental opportunity for them to go flesh out why. Why do you do that? Meet with the customer, figure out what that is. And we ended up trimming about half of those processes out because they weren't used anymore. No one knew it. We just kept doing it and didn't have time to ever research it before. So we established governance and integration. We developed a project life cycle and an application life cycle, and then developed how the two feed into each other. Okay, so focus on the bottom line. So we wanted to estimate the work. We wanted to split up our resources into tiers. So, I have a junior developer, kind of a mid-tier developer, and then senior developers. And what we had found as we started tracking was we'd have senior developers doing service desk tickets. And that's not the space we wanted them in because they all just went in a bucket and whoever got them, and usually the senior guys were just more efficient. So we started splitting out our resources so that we could work smarter. And then we also developed, I think some of you guys have heard this before, the generic resource that we can put in there to assign when we don't have a named resource to put in. So we're trying to change the culture at ConocoPhillips. Then we can start pulling in, the other big piece UMT brings is the financials. They bring greater financial clarity to Project Server that's not out of the box. So here was the platform we set up. So it's obviously SharePoint, Project Server, UMT 360. We wanted the integration with TFS. We also want integration with Remedy. That's our service desk tool where we get our work tickets from. We utilize Spotfire, also comes to a reporting hub within the portal we have. And then SAP integration was a big one for us. So what we wanted with SAP was, one, we wanted to get actuals back on a daily basis for how each project was performing. And the other one was we wanted to be able to push to SAP the time. So I've got 10 line items in this project. I have 4 hours, 7 hours, 9, 100%, 100%. Then it'll write that to the WBS associated with the project for us. So does anybody else have SAP at your all's place? You guys do? Have you ever worked with that team? They'll give you anything, sure. As long as you don't touch it, we'll give it to you. But boy, if you're writing to them, that's a big deal, right? So that's we're going through a functional integration test, a big kind of global testing that we go through, and it's in FIT now. So we're hoping to have it in late March. Any questions on the integrations, the pieces? So we were trying to create the mythical unicorn, right? The one-stop shop that had everything. We wanted the ability for customers now to be able to have a page that as you call me and want me to set up your project, and I set it up and I assign the resources to it, now I give you a link where you can come out and you can look at the status. The status report's out there for everybody to see. We're not sending special ones to anybody anymore. You can come and see what's next. Is it delayed? Is it ahead of schedule? Is it behind schedule? How's the cost? You have that page that shows you all that. And then also as our customers get more comfortable with it, they'll come in and they'll do work requests through the system. They'll just start a project, and they have to do about 5 boxes and start it. And they can even say, Hans is my favorite developer. I've worked with Hans. He's the guy I want on this. They can actually go look at Hans' availability and see what projects he's on. They're going to see when he rolls off and becomes available. And they can right then add him to their project. Now, as Hans' supervisor, it's going to send me a note in my workflow to say, hey, John asked for Hans to be on this project here, and I can drill in and approve it, or then have a conversation to say, hopefully why Hans can't not work. So we're trying to really just change the culture at ConocoPhillips. So application portfolio. So we have over 500 applications from global, the Alaska business unit, Australian business unit, whoever it is, they all want an app. And a lot of them, we kind of do the same stuff, but everybody does it a little bit different, whether it's regional-wise or government regulation-wise or whatever it is. So we have quite a few apps. We have a lot of apps, all kinds of different places, supply chain, well data, you name it. So one of the things for us was we had to define a health metric for the applications. So now we've got all these apps loaded in, but how do we have a conversation with the customer about the apps that you had me build, right? I'm a steward for those, so how do we have that? So we kind of came up with our formula about, what platform and architecture is it built on? Is it current? Is it end of life? Is it already not supported? Is it cutting edge? So that gets a score. Then we have a purpose. So we call it fit for purpose. I asked you to build me a watch, and you kind of got it. You gave me a stopwatch. I can't really tell time with it. So does the application we built fit your purpose? Because notoriously we're kind of bad at understanding your requirements and delivering what you asked for. What's the user experience? This is real big for us right now. Usability. We have usability experts now that look at an app and does it kind of, think Microsoft projects, the ribbon's sort of the same across them all. So once you kind of figure one out, are all the apps for your BU similar to that? Are they easy to use? What's the reliability? How many service desk tickets do we get on it? And then that gives us a health score. And what this health score lets us do is, and these are all reports right out of it, we can go now meet with you as a customer and say, hey, here are all the applications that you had us built for you, and kind of here's their health score, and we explain to them how the scoring goes. And we're not here to tell you to get rid of the fat, ugly red one in the bottom left that adds no value and is a poor architectural fit and it's a high risk because it's so big. But we just pointed out to you that, hey, this is the issue you may want to look at. It's your business. You can keep plugging money into that if you want, or we can help you redesign that application and try to get them all up here to the top right, little green one, high value, good architectural fit. So we wanted to build complete transparency, incorporate operational metrics into that. So now when I come have the conversation with you, and this has happened, does anybody at your workplace, do you guys at Salvation Army Christmas time have angel trees? You adopt an angel off of it, and it's a child that wants some things for Christmas, and a group usually adopts them. So we have a group in Canada, that they wanted to make a web app out of that. They thought it would be great, it'd be neat, philanthropical. And so we designed an app for them. And then we enhanced the app, and we enhanced the app, and we enhanced the app. And then we went and met with them to show them, hey, this is the health of your app. And Just, it's a great architectural fit. It's pretty new. We don't get a lot of tickets on it. You guys only use it about once a year. And you got about $600,000 in it. Are you getting your return on your investment? And they obviously weren't, right? So that app now is you cannot enhance that app any further without BU president approval. So it's just funny. It's like going to Disney and you use the little Disney card, and it's not real money. Your kids scan it and do this and buy that. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to come back to your customer and go, this is what you're paying. Are you getting your return out of this, right? Because if it's not helping us get more oil out of the ground or do it cheaper, it's probably not adding value. So these are more total cost of ownership reports that are out of it that we show. Customers can go look at them anytime. They can see how their app's performing, what the cost is, how much money they have in it at any given time. So managing the portfolio, transform the team, and application support. So these are reports that we review on a weekly basis as a leadership team. These are go live. So as we have projects that go live, who's going live this week? Then we do projects we call entry exit. So what new projects came into the system, and then what projects are closing out and leaving the system. And then we have just your normal kind of health, red, green, yellow, that you can look at. What's the spend, burn down, and all this is available to the customers to see too at their own anytime they want. And then they're welcome to call us or we'll contact them hopefully. So the other piece for us was, we kind of touched on it, was shifting resources to maximize delivery. So we wanted to be able to look at what our resource utilization looked like. We were a terrible, terrible partner for the companies that we would get consultants from. I don't know if any of you guys are like this. It's Thursday, and hey, I need 2 mobile developers Monday, and I really need them to be the best you got. Because everybody knows those top 10% of the guys are just sitting around waiting for us to call. They're obviously not working anywhere because they're so good. So it was bad. It was bad for us, and we wouldn't get the people we wanted, and it would slow it down worse. And by the time you get access to them, build them a laptop, get them all the systems they need, you're already $20,000 in, and darn it, just didn't work. So what this is helping us to do is forecast further out. We couldn't forecast to next week before we started with this. And then we got to where we could see 2 weeks out. And now we're at where we can see 2 months out. And I'd love to tell you we can see a year out. It probably never happened. But 2 months is pretty good. We're really happy with 2 months to know I need 6 .NET guys, 3 mobile developers, 4 testers. And we can get that to our partners faster to help us meet the demand and improve that customer responsiveness. Because you're not waiting on us now. We have the resources we need. So the financial picture. So we kind of touched on this a little bit, and all these, again, are more reports that are in the system. The SAP to drive the actuals back into each project. The budget's loaded there too. And then the pushback for time writing. So when you think, does anybody know how to make a developer happy? What makes developers happy? Anybody? Huh? Mountain Dew? Well, that does probably. When they're developing, they just want to develop. I mean, we heard it over and over. I just want to develop. And they're doing these status reports, and they have to go to SAP and write their time, and they have to go over here and update a project plan. So by linking it all together and putting it with TFS, I put my line item in there that's 40 hours, build X. They come over to TFS, they see it in their workflow, which whoever I've assigned, it's all linked. Hans opens it up, sees it in his workflow, and then he can build that out to the other 40 line items that he needs, so he knows every step of the way. And then as he does stuff and works in TFS and checks those boxes, it's updating project for me. And by updating project with the time he put over here, it's updating SAP also for the time to build that WBS code. So he gets to stay in TFS, and he gets to stay happy because he's developing. That's what he wants to do. So kind of our value summary, consolidated portfolio management and governance, application portfolio, work and resource portfolio, financial management, and then reporting. We utilized UMT a lot to build us a ton of reports that we needed. And now we're probably on a little bit of a report overload. We probably have a few more than we need, but somebody likes that view now, right? So that's the worst part about a report is somebody will latch onto it. A whole reporting center, it's real slick how it works. You can go in, you can slice and dice every resource you have. I can go see, what's Han doing today, what's he doing tomorrow, what he finished last week, when's he free. I can sort it by group, by supervisor, by skill sets. We also have skill sets in there, or roles. It's a lot of work to put it in because we have to team. What are all your skill sets? And then we load it up to 3 skill types, and then we have the role pieces. So I think this is really it. Any questions? I think we got done kind of early, half an hour. So I talk pretty fast, and then I'm really loud. I try to tell them I didn't need a mic because my wife says I've got loud and loud. That's my two pieces.
So application.
Mm-hmm. For the health of the app?
I'm going to say, because the session is being recorded, we'll make a point of repeating the questions. Okay. Feel free to use the mic in the middle if you would want. Otherwise, we'll just repeat the question. I think the question from the gentleman is to be more specific on the application portfolio as to where it's being kept.
It's all kept in Project Server. And that's the piece UMT brings to the table is that integration, so it's stored in the same database, all that information's still there. Yes, sir? So it is linked. So in Remedy, every time a ticket comes in, they assign it to an application, and then that's how those work hours get reported to that app then. So then when we have that conversation with the customer, we can say, hey, here's how many Remedy tickets you had. We did go with a generic, we kind of divided all of the hours we had for operations and divided it up across the number of tickets, and now we just use that as a kind of a flat, this is what we'll assign the value to each ticket was, 10 minutes, 15 minutes time, whatever it is. Yes?
Yeah, you had mentioned Primavera. Are you pushing Primavera data into the server environment?
We're not now. So ConocoPhillips historically, we have a PMO office, and if you're going to run a project that's over $500,000, you have to go through the PMO office, and they strictly use Primavera. So does anybody here use Primavera? It's not very easy, is it? I mean, my gosh, it's easier to tear apart a small block Chevy and put back together. It's just not easy. So we have a lot of problems with that. And anything under $500,000 was do whatever you want. I mean, people were doing them on whiteboards, sticky notes. So now everybody will use Project Server for that. And we're pushing really hard I was teasing somebody, I think it was Carissa yesterday, that our goal is, we rolled it for our group, and now as all these other groups we interact with, Alaska's wanting to implement it, Australia's implementing it. The more people that see it, it's kind of the drug dealer approach. Give them a free sample, and now they're hooked, and they want it, right? That's what we call it. So, and we're having more and more groups. You may know, because UMT's still there. They facilitate those. They call us and say, hey, I love this tool. What is it? How do I let us set up a presentation? We have somebody on site there from UMT that goes, and they kind of manage that relationship. We look great because they know everything about it and know how to present it. That's their skill set. So more and more people are getting it. So kind of our goal is all of IT, all of ConocoPhillips, and then we want to dominate the world pretty much. So that's us. There was somebody behind you.
How long did it take you to assess the health of each of your 500+ applications, and who did the assessment?
So we have an entire architectural team as part of application development services was part of what we did was rebranding our group. Entire architectural team. So it actually took them longer to come up with the health formula than it did to do that. And it took them about 2 months to really come up with a health formula. And there was some good arguing about that, right? There were some whiteboard markers getting thrown around and everything. And then once we had that, it wasn't too hard then. The architects could look at it and they could assess the health or what platform it's on, and is it emerging, is it past life. Then we handed it off to the usability team, and they went real fast, maybe a month, 6 weeks at most. Went real fast. Now, the conversations as we traveled this year around the world to meet with all these BUs that we have apps, to explain to them that formula and why it made sense to them, and if it makes sense to them will be another conversation, right? Most of them it probably will, because it sort of seems mysterious, and it's that IT thing, and it's magic, but so I think they'll take it for what it is.
Are you doing the whole PPM life cycle, that is create, select, plan, manage, and bringing the intake in with portfolio analysis as well?
So not as much on the portfolio analysis piece. So the rest, yes, absolutely. We do the whole thing. We create we didn't create it, already existed. We just implemented the whole SDLC, an open entry and open exit model. You can come in at any stage of it you want and leave. And then we geared our implementation around that way, that we can put you in at any one of those pieces and let you out. So the way we work is, we're a service provider. If you're IT for any company like that, you provide a service, because your business is getting oil out of the ground. It's not developing IT stuff. So basically, when you contact me as my customer and go, hey, I need XYZ built, I don't have a portfolio. I just do what you ask, right? You're paying the bills, so here it is. I give it to you. Now, internally, we have several million that we do for internal projects to my group. And, our upgrading TFS, the HP tool suite, purchase and worksoft we just did, other stuff like that. And we do have to do, those are in our portfolio, and we do some analysis with those because, like everybody else, we turned in, $20 million worth of stuff, and we got $12 million approved. So now, where's the 8 you're going to cut, right? But that's a smaller scale for us.
You mentioned a couple times about changing the culture. What are some of the biggest challenges there? Do you do that by yourself, or do you want to address it?
We certainly kicked it off by ourselves, and bringing UMT in at the time we did, right after the transition. ConocoPhillips historically, has anybody worked there before in IT? No? Historically was very risk adverse, very cost conscious. IT was sort of this nasty thing we had to have. And then there wasn't a feeling of empowerment, and it was a real kind of really cover yourself well and don't make too many mistakes, and you better have 3 signatures on this before you do it kind of thing. So it was a great time that we brought them in at the time because they helped us also look at our processes that we had that existed and helped us challenge. And it was just, with the influx of so many new people and new ideas that we had because of the transition, having to hire a lot of folks in, it was a good time. So I would say they certainly contributed to it. Just because, they have some great folks, and they would come and lead these sessions, and people are like, I've always hated this. And it was odd at the time because there was stuff that they would tell them, they wouldn't tell me was a problem. Whether they would get in trouble for telling me, I don't know what it is, but, and did anybody else's speaker, were they out of your size shirts? When I got here, they didn't have large, so they had to give me a medium. So if I start turning purple, somebody help, just tear this open, okay? My wife wears those Spanx, and I think this must be what it feels like. Man, Spanx. So did I answer your question? Good? Okay. And somebody, was it you? Agreed?
I had a question on your operational type of work. Taking tickets and remedy, how so break fix, enhancement that comes into there. Are you pulling that back over from a resource perspective for your project, or is that a reporting?
So when they come back over from remedy, they just go into one bucket that they work, and then whoever the technician is, or the developer, whoever it is, whatever skill set. And what we did do, too, is we removed all of our Tier 3 developers out of that bucket. You're not even allowed to look at these tickets. And then the other thing we're trying to do is we're trying to build more of an offshore presence and push more remedy tickets to the offshore so we can go ahead and develop our Tier 1 to a Tier 2 and our Tier 2 to a Tier 3 developer. So as they come in, they go into one bucket. Whoever it is grabs it, and then they classify it for what application it's for, work it, record their time, and so that's how it gets between the two. Does that make sense? Because the minute they classify it, then it pulls a report nightly. I think it is nightly. And that's when it pushes the data that this app had a ticket, 2 tickets, 5 tickets, gone and on and on. So it could be better in that we could put, maybe, I doubt we'll ever get there because I don't know if there's enough value in it to say what I actually worked on this ticket instead of this kind of blended rate that we use for all the tickets. But I don't know if there's enough value into putting that in and the extra work it would take. Yes? Negative. No, that's our goal, right? All of IT next. So we're picking more groups up. The other one, you guys know how many? It's over 10, I know, additional organizations at ConocoPhillips that are adopting this.
Yes, I would say so. So what's happening is ConocoPhillips is quite organized with business units based on geographical locations. So there hasn't been a mandate that drives it across all of the geographies. But as Rob points out, right now, there's Canada, there is the UK,
Gulf Coast,
there is
Lower 48, yeah. And there's more people that want to see it. And I know UMT actually is also there right now doing a parallel effort that they're spooling up a whole other utilization of it for a global risk register piece.
For capital projects. So all of this is very IT focused, obviously this presentation. So it's the IT application portfolio, the IT projects, the IT resources, to the question from the gentleman, not all of IT yet. But as Rob points out, and we can talk maybe offline about it if you have any questions, we're also doing a deployment of the same platform for capital projects. And I was commenting yesterday at dinner, somebody was like, what do you mean capital projects? What is that? So this is basically the major capital projects that ConocoPhillips is doing to build a new platform out in the shore of Australia and so on. And just for fun, I was mentioning that we had run a report, and I'm pretty sure this is not confidential information, that we had run a report that reported what the total budget was of all of the currently active capital projects, and it was roughly 100 billion with a B. Billion with a B, right? So it's a totally different ballgame, but that's actually something that we're working on as well, the capital project, construction project aspect.
The biggest project I ran in IT was 15.3 million, and it's a big project. That's big time. And we were deploying an application globally. We built it and then deployed it. And the first project we deployed to, a project team, their budget was $1.015 billion. So and then they wanted us to use their capital reporting tool every month also. And so I had my IT reporting tool I had to use at the time, and then I had to use their tool as well. And one of the steering committee meetings, they're like, hey, why aren't you using the tool? None of your spend's in there. I'm like, no, my spend is in there. It's just your tool rounds at the $1 million. And since I'm under $1 million run rate a month, it gets zero. Right? So that's economy of scale. We didn't. And is there anybody here from HP? Because I might be going to insult you for just a minute. Maybe. I'll apologize now. We had problems, right? Those three that we identified. We didn't know what anybody was doing, and we had this terrible reputation that I would ask something from your group and I would get nothing, and then maybe 2 months a phone call, and it was bad. And part of the challenge is us, because I was a project manager, is what I like to do, and so I wasn't a group supervisor or anything before that. Was, hey, we need some of you guys to come in and help us fix this. So executive management asked us to come in and try to change the culture in some of these, especially pick the worst group and try to fix it. And that's when we identified those three areas we were really lacking in. I mean, can you imagine you come in, you take over a group, and you're the global support, functional, technical, for 500 plus apps, 570, 572, and you say, hey, well, okay, what are they? Show me a list. I don't have a list. We just know what they are. Well, so that was a challenge. Yes, sir. Operational work? Yeah. So how do you handle resources from an operational point of view that aren't planned on a project? So what we did for all those resources that have that operational space, so it would be below Tier 3 again. What we do for those guys is we just book a certain percentage of their time as 20% ops. So that's accounted for. If you guys kind of went to the chalk talking, he kind of drew that on the board. This is, I can't remember what he called it, some kind of overhead. We book that as ops, operation support. So 20% of your life is on this. You have another 80% available for project work that comes along. And then that seemed to work real well for us. We haven't had any issues so far with it. The system's really neat. And UMT set this up. We have 3 different work schedules at ConocoPhillips. You have a 540, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. You have a 1930, which is you basically work 8.5 hours a day, and you get to take a day off a month. And then we have a 980, which means you work 45-hour weeks, but you get every other Friday off. And then there's 2 schedules for that, though. There's an A schedule and a B schedule, because they only want half the people out at a time. And all that's in there now. I'm 980B, and it's in there. And you can go, when you try to book me, you see I'm unavailable every other Friday on my weeks. So it's real handy, real cool how it works. Uh-huh. Our quality center, our testing space is very, very mature. I mean, it is very mature, and the guy that manages that has, he's got a chokehold on it, I guess. So we really didn't have that problem, because he came out and kind of laid out, this goes here, this doesn't go there, and we were lucky because no one at our place knew anything about Microsoft Project or Project Server. So basically, when all those was kind of set, we didn't have that problem. So maybe you could flush everybody's mind and have them start over and get rid of it. So somebody else, sir?
Yeah, I was going to comment the process and technology solution that we use for that, just to be very brief. The project managers plan the project up to the point in which they need to in order to manage it, right? And then that flows into the development space, and the team leads and the developers might take that task, which could be, build the login screen or whatever it is, and then break it down, identify an authentication method, design the UI, so they can break it down here. So this is what a key component of what we're trying to do related to change management is to make sure that, for example, the developers were happy. So we bought them a lot of Gatorade, and we made sure that they were working in their world. So they break it down, and the process and the technology is designed in such a way that if I'm a developer, I broke it down into 5 tasks. As I complete my work, that's going to roll up, and the project manager is only going to see that summary task that is relevant for her. That's the high-level process. So it works. And then also the cultural evolution of, cleaning everybody's mind is part of the growth as well.
And that's a great add. And probably the other piece, too, that saves us some for maybe even new folks that come in is when the project gets first loaded, whether I put it in from a call from you or you load it yourself now as you're getting more comfortable with it, and you just put the idea out there and assign a probability to it. Hey, it's 10%, it's 50, I want somebody to call me, that kind of deal. Then what happens is that goes to a group that specifically gathers business requirements. So they start getting those, and then the developer kind of comes in a little bit later once they read the requirement. I understand this, I need more information on this one, and so that kind of comes in a little later. Where's Carissa? So it took us, everybody here have a procurement group? All contracts and MSAs have to go through that? Yeah. Oh, that took forever, didn't it? We were getting really upset. At the end of the transition, nobody knew what was going on. It was just a nightmare. It took us, I think, 4 months to get the MSA finally done. So we started later than we wanted, so the timeline kept shifting. I want to say you guys were on site January 4th or something, and we rolled out. We had an internal go pilot, and then we went live in August. Was it August?
Yeah, I would say
July,
May was up. And in August,
well, it was definitely up, and we could play in it, and we let some other people play in it, but this wasn't the real go live. Anything you put in here, blah blah blah, we won't cover. So
I think
maybe July. July was
somewhere between
the global kind of
4 to 6 months, depending on when you claim the win. 4 months is out there, 6 months is more integrated, and of course, it's always a journey. We've never heard of a PMO or project management or resource management process that is done, right? It's always a continuous journey. Maybe 4 to 6 months.
And then what's interesting is as we go and talk to every group, it's funny, we all run projects, we all have resources, we all have customers pretty much. And as you go meet with every group, and of course, UMT's used to this, we really weren't. Like, no, we do it different. Really? You guys don't have FEL 1, FEL 2, you don't have an idea? No, we do all that different. And UMT's really good at that because they'll go and work with them, and this kind of maps to this, and and that's different. Yeah, it actually really maps to this. And at the end of the day, pretty much 90% of them do it exactly the same way. We all just want to feel unique. Sir?
Talk to me about how you integrated and how long it took to integrate financial aspects.
So the additional financial reporting capabilities are built into the tool. The SAP integration, is that what you specifically mean? So it took 2 weeks to get the pull from SAP into Project Server. 2 weeks was it. I mean, you guys can work with 4 or 5 different formats, and we went and met with the right person in SAP. That probably took 2 days to figure out who that was. And he goes, I can do 3 of those. Which one you want? Hans and those guys helped us. This one's the easiest. That was a slam dunk. The push to SAP, and kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier, when you're sending data to them, that's a much bigger deal. So it took 2 months, I think, to develop the interface and the push. It's all set up in test. It works great. But getting it to production is that SAP fit cycle that we have. And I still call them service packs. I think everybody, even Microsoft, renamed them to something else. It'll always be service packs to me. That's sort of when you put on the SAP service pack, and every project that has something that affects any of the financial stuff in SAP has to go through this fit cycle. It's 8 to 12 weeks long. You run all these tests till they pass. Test doesn't pass the third fit. It's kicked out. It isn't going in. So that fit starts this month, and it'll end in March. So we'll have that push back at the end of March. Does that answer? Thank you, first. So not so much timesheets, really. What we really do is I have 10 tasks and I go put the actual work. I actually spent 10 hours on that one, 4 hours on that one, and then mark the percent complete. And then that's kind of my timesheet. That's what it sends to the system, to SAP to bill against. You got it. For CAT's for employees, and it uses another one. I can't remember the name for consultants. Do you remember what it's called? CAT's is for internal employees, and there's a different system the other way to SAP. Resourcing jobs. I don't understand that. No, I haven't seen. I see what you mean, because if you update it in Project Server before you get the pullback, then you can see a conflict, right? This one shows more dollars than this one.
No, it shows $0 sometimes. 0 hours as actual in the project schedule.
We haven't seen that at all.
I think part of it, and maybe we can take it offline, the way in which we are doing the SAP integration, which is one of the options with the UMT 360, is to do it a little bit more at the project level, not at the task level. So the way in which the project financials, for example, and the application financials are structured is a little bit more, what's the cost of hardware, what's the cost of software, internal labor, external labor, offshore labor, inshore labor. So that's the breakdown that we are using. That's how we manage the project cost. It's a little bit less at the task level. And I think maybe what you're describing. Okay. We can talk about that one.
We got about 10 minutes. You, sir? Sure.
Would you say the engagement was more of the business fitting the tool or the tool fitting the business?
I would say so. I would definitely say we probably didn't do it the way you should. Normally you should always figure out what the new process needs to be and then go find a tool that fits that. And we really didn't do that. We just knew we had problems, and we were challenged to make a change within the first year. Really pushed hard to do that. So I would certainly say we lucked out that the tool really did fit what we needed, and really you guys came in and helped us even do the new processes, which magically fit the tool perfectly, right? Almost like they knew what they were doing. So yeah, I mean, ConocoPhillips is probably notoriously poor at that, where we always pick a tool before we even understand the business requirements, and then we do what everybody does. We custom code it now, right? We bought something, and we got to custom code the heck out of it to get to do what we want.
I feel compelled to comment on that one. So at the end of the day, it is the tool and the process need to marry well together with the organization. The tool and the process need to marry so that a child, which is behavior, comes to born. So I would say I'm glad to hear that we felt we got lucky that the tool. I would say that there were some folks in the UMT team that were very astute in designing the tool in a way that really met. And the Microsoft and UMT platform is very flexible, as we know, right? But you need to know all of the options from a process best practice as well as from a tool standpoint. So it was, I think, a parallel journey a little bit. From a UMT standpoint, the tool is useless. The tool is only a source of problems. The objective is to get the tool out of the way of the users and the process and focus on the process, and then the tool needs to be an enabler there, if that makes sense. But my focus is, obviously the focus is the business objective, obviously the focus is the process, and then it's the skill to kind of design the process and the tool together and steer the conversations in ways that you introduce in best practices from a methodology and process standpoint and so on. I would say in this case, I'm going to call Andrew as specifically the name of we got lucky. Yeah. Andrew is lucky because Andrew was our architect that was working on site, really making the process conversations go in the right directions. And
he fit our culture so well, too. I mean, he's still the guy we have there on. I mean, we don't want to let him go. We're just trying to make up work if there's a lull and people wanting on, because he really just meshed with us so well.
Hopefully that addresses the question.
Yes, sir.
Regarding your work, where do you do the estimation for the work itself?
We do it in the tool as well, in Project Server. loaded them in the comments. It's a real underdeveloped or low developed project plan that kind of details the pieces out and just gives them a bottom line. It's 15 steps kind of deal, and then if they agree to it, then we flesh the rest of it out.
So you are using TFS as well, right?
We do.
Do they do any estimation in TFS?
No, they don't really do estimation in TFS. Usually, the estimation that the developers give us is it's a verbal conversation typically, and then we'll put it in. In TFS, they flush out their work, though, because we just have that one line item for them that goes over to TFS in their workflow, and then they'll build the other 27 steps that they need to develop whatever that piece is.
So what kind of integration did you have between TFS and
So it pushes the task to them in TFS, allows them to do whatever they want under that main task. They can flush it out more. Then as they complete those pieces in TFS, it writes it back to Project Server to show the time and the percentages go up on that, on the major task. And then I don't know even where the future of this goes. January 1st, I actually accepted a new position managing the Alaska portfolio, the Alaska business unit. So I still live in Bartlesville, but started traveling back and forth. So I actually flew home Friday after 2 weeks in Anchorage and then flew out here Sunday. So, and how do you think they manage the portfolio in Alaska? Anybody guess? Spreadsheet. You got it. 85 projects, capital projects on the spreadsheet with just, I don't know, like XX columns. I mean, just go and goes and goes. So I already said, you guys are coming to Anchorage to do a presentation. So that's kind of the odd thing it kind of feels. So everybody's sort of a unique company within itself. It's even called ConocoPhillips Alaska Inc., like it's a separate company. But so, the last was your last one. You said that. We're on 2010. Good question. I'm sorry, I meant to cover that. We are on 2010 is what we deployed. ConocoPhillips was risk adverse, cost conscious around IT. Our collaboration sites are still on SharePoint 2003. You guys ever heard of that? There used to be one. I don't know if you guys knew where it came. Our intranet is on 2007. After the transition, there was a project to upgrade to 2010. They got halfway through and go, gosh, this is stupid. We should just go on to 2013. So they canceled that project, and now they're all through with the planning, and they just kicked off execution upgrade. Well, we couldn't wait. We were challenged to do something faster. Well, a lot of groups were, and some of us kind of answered the bell, and some of them maybe not as much. So we stood up our own instance for 2010, and we have a test environment that has 2013 in it, and we're hoping to cut over to it into second quarter, first of third quarter.
The capital projects work that we are doing is 2013.
Oh,
but that's
so
a
on
little
the new
behind.
instance.
So the one that we mentioned for the large capital projects, that's 2013. There were some nice features that
Yeah, everybody's excited about the mobile for sure. I think the speed improvements you hear a lot of people talk about. We're looking, not that ours is slow by any means, doesn't seem like, but everything can always be a little better. We are on premise, yes.
I'm going to, as we think of last questions, I wanted to, as I listened to a conversation, I wanted to just reflect on one thing. I'm sure maybe all of you, I'm not going to ask you to raise hands again, I guess I have this habit. Many of you probably were at the keynote presentations yesterday when Sajan spoke and Ludo spoke and so on. I can't remember if it was Sajan or Ludo or who it was, but there was one slide that, I think it was Ludo, that I think he said, I want to talk about the future, but before I do that, it's difficult for me to do that without talking about or looking at the past a little bit. And he had a little time on a slide that showed in 2002, we had scheduling at an enterprise level. I don't know if you can envision the slide with me. And then he said, in 2006, we integrated with resource management. It's kind of the journey that Microsoft followed. In 2010, we integrated with project portfolio management. So that's kind of how the industry is evolving. The schedules, then we integrated another portfolio, which is the resource portfolio. Then we actually bring the project portfolio full capabilities. 2010, that's actually what Microsoft acquired from UMT. And today we hear in Rob, in an organization that is innovating a little bit here, talking about the application portfolio, right? Being in the same place where your project, your resource, your work portfolio, your schedules are. So this is the evolution that is being enabled by the tools. The tools really, in a way, are allowing us to do this. They're getting better at integrating the data, integrating the different silos, and so on. So this idea of one IT portfolio, which I think was one of your slides, Rob, The idea of not just having the project portfolio and then the application portfolio, but really to be able to look at the whole thing and, of course, enable business decisions with the financials. What is this costing you, client? Is this paying, giving the return? So just a reflection, as I was listening to the conversation, the evolution of the marketplace. And I would mention there is another presentation at 11:30, which is a little unique because it's the only presentation in which Gartner is presenting. So there's a person, an analyst from Gartner that is presenting. And I can't remember, Nicole, maybe you could do me a favor of looking up what the room number is.
I think it's in this room.
It's right here. Okay. So, I envision they're probably going to be talking a little bit about that. What is the future of portfolio? At 10:30. 10:30, sorry. So at 10:30 here, and they're probably going to be talking about the future of portfolio management, which I think, Rob and the developers and the donkey, they are all already a little bit in the future. So I just wanted to share that. And of course, sorry, this is the self-serving sales pitch. Of course, GMT as a consulting company, we've always been innovating in this space, so we know the processes and what works, and we happen to have the tools that enable this. The reason why it's called 360 is because it gives you that 360 view. So sorry about that. I do need to earn my paycheck as well.
And before we get in trouble, from attending this session, you can get a booklet stamped, and Nicole there's in the back in the blue waving their book around, and they can stamp it. And I think if you attend certain sessions, you can win a music thing or an Xbox One or all that.
Or a small Chevy to take apart and put together.
Sometimes easier. And there was one other, was it you that maybe had a question we didn't get to, sir, in the gray? No. Was there anybody else? I thought there was one more hand I didn't get. Nothing? Well, thanks for coming in here.
Thank you very much, Rob.
And,
Thank you, Rob.
Appreciate it. You guys have a good day.